All right, so we're going to take a look at a study that we actually needed last week for the Torah portion. Well, no, we needed it for the last part of Yehezekiel, so we did a little crash course, but this is Considering the River Out of Eden and Its Four Branches. And the subtitle is Knowing Who We Are So That We Can Know Where We Are. And we've been talking about the Torah, and we've been talking about the Hebrew language, the words within the Torah, and that they have so many definitions. And this teaches us that the Torah, the lessons that we find in Torah are bottomless. And in the Word of Yahweh, we learn lessons that teach us about ourselves, even in the strangest places. This is talking about four branches of a river that came out of Eden that's in the middle of something that he's talking about. He made every tree to grow, and he's just made the Adam, and then all of a sudden he starts talking about rivers that are flowing outside of Eden. He's talking about what's going on in Eden, all of a sudden he's talking about stuff out of Eden. So we're going to consider Bereshit chapter 2, and it's verses 10, 11, and 12 that talks about this river and these four heads. And we start with verse 10 that says, "And a river went out of Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was parted and became four heads. And the name of the first is Pishon. It is that which surrounds the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and onyx stone." So this is verses 10 through 12 that talk about this river that comes out, and it talks about the first head. Now, we kind of blew over this real fast last week in Yehezekiel, so let's take a look at it a little bit slower. But the name of this river, the first river, is Pishon, that means to increase. And the verse itself begins, the name of the first, which in Hebrew is Seh HaElohim. Now, if we consider that Echad means one, but it also means to be in agreement with, as well as to be in unity with, and the word Shem means name, then we can consider that to be in agreement and in unity with the name that brings increase. Now we move on from there and say that this increased surrounds the whole land of Havilah. And this is the first time that we see the word surround, which is sovav, and it's the first time that we find the letter samek as a root of a word in Torah. Now we've said that sovav means to surround. Samek, we also recognize it as a letter, represents something that surrounds something, but it also represents the lifespan of the human being, because if we take samek and we break it down in its gematria and we spell out the word samek, we get a gematria of 120. So, but this word means to surround, but it also comes from a root, shub, that means to turn around, as in to make teshuvah. So increase not only surrounds us when we are in agreement with the word of Elohim, but when we transgress, as soon as we make teshuvah, then this agreement, this increase that surrounds us continues. So we're the only ones that can actually stop the increase of Elohim from happening. But when we make teshuvah, it continues. So this increase surrounds us when we are kol. Now, this word means whole, but it also means to be complete from its root kalal. Now, as we go down further in the study, we're going to see that kol also has a dark side, a negative side. There's always two sides to a story. So, but it is in the et that precedes this word, and the word eretz that comes after this word, that we find some meaning. The et represents the word of Yahuwah, and eretz represents humankind. So we are made complete through the word of Yahuwah when we are in agreement with his name. Now, the Torah in the Tanakh is also known as Yahshua. It's called the deliverance, restoration, redemption of Yahuwah, but it's called Yahshua, it's called Yasha, it's called Yashi. So the name Havila means to encircle. So we have a lot of things surrounding and encircling in this. But Havila also means to enclose or to encapsulate. But it also has a number of other meanings as well, in that it means to wait, it means to trust, it means to look, and it means to hope. So the idea to consider here is that we must be aware of the increase that surrounds us when we are in agreement with Yahuwah, while we wait, trust, look for, and hope for the world to come. Now, if we say that when we are in agreement with Yahuwah, and we say that Chavila also means to enclose and to encapsulate, then we can also consider that we are a vessel that encloses or encapsulates Mashiach, because we have the anointing. It encapsulates the Ruach that ignites the anointing, and it encapsulates the Word that is the light that comes from this. So we're a pretty hefty little vessel that carries a lot of stuff. Now, gold is a type for the anointing of Yahuwah, and that gold is good. And there is bdelem from the word habedolach that's rooted in the word badal, that means to separate or to set apart. Now, before we put anything together, the word onyx stone, the word for stone is eben, that comes from a root, bana, that means to restore and to establish. The word for onyx is shocham, that aside from meaning a slightly greenish stone, also means to blanch or to make white. So we can complete an idea here of what the restored and established state of humankind is with a concept of we must be aware of the increase that surrounds us when we are in agreement with Yahuwah, while we wait, trust, look for, and hope for the world to come. And this we've said that if we're going to build a relationship with our Elohim, we have to do it now while we're alive. That once we're dead, it's really too late. And if we haven't bothered to get it right, then like Ricky used to tell Lucy, you've got some splaining to do, so to speak, right? But it is through the word of Yahuwah that we are restored and established as set apart to Yahuwah. This is the state of being that we strive to achieve by keeping the Torah of Elohim and living to walk with him in our day-to-day. And this is a person who is both complete and aware. These people are very much aware of the proximity of the garden as they strive to enter within its hedge of protection. And we recall that, we're waiting to go to the garden, but we can be in the garden while we're alive, that when we are walking with Elohim, that hedge of protection surrounds us, and we are his delight. So it's something to keep in mind as we build our relationship with Elohim. Now, verse 13. It's about the second river, and it says, and the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that surrounds the whole land of Cush. So the name Gihon, or Gihon, means bursting forth, and it surrounds the land of Cush, that means black. So we can't really get a whole lot of information from those definitions in and of themselves. We can begin to understand better when we take into account the phrase et kol eretz, The et, again, represents to us the word of Yahuwah. It is the Aleph and the Tav. Now, as a Hebrew word, it's simply an object pointer that points to a word that is receiving the action in the verse. And in this case, it is the land of Cush that's being Sovav. It's being surrounded by the river Gihon. But this still doesn't give us a lot of information to work with. So et is rooted in the word oth, that means a sign. The word eretz, that in the verse is used for the word land, also represents humankind. So we go to Matthew and we consider what Yahshua was saying. And this is Matthew 12, verses 35 through 41, that he said, "A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things, and an evil man out of the evil treasure brings forth evil things." So right here, right off the bat, there's a choice to bring forth good things or to bring forth evil things. "But I say unto you that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give account thereof in the day of judgment. For by your words you shall be justified, and by your words you shall be condemned." So here is a consequence to the choices that we make. And actually, it's a consequence to the choice that we make and what we've just talked about as well. Now, he's just given a good teaching. He's just given a good piece of advice. He's given something that we can take and add to our toolbox to build a relationship with. But let's see how this scenario plays out. Goes on, "Then certain of the scribes and Pharisees answered, saying, Rabbi, we would see a sign from you." Now, does see a sign from you have anything to do with what he's just said? Speak evil or speak good, but you're going to have to weigh the consequences of it? First, the above lesson is ignored. The Pharisees, but it could be anybody, they're distracted because of wanting a sign. Got books, rabbis, televangelists, preachers are teaching about the end times, pre-trib, mid-trib, post-trib, rapture this, rapture that. But none of them are really concerned about building a relationship with Elohim. Then it goes on to say in verse 39, "But he answered and said to them, An evil and adulterous generation seeks after a sign." Why? Because building a relationship with Yahweh Elohechem, that is their Elohim, isn't a reality to them. And this is something that, I kind of make fun of it, that people go to church for a couple of hours on Sunday, and sometimes an hour, because we don't really want to make it for all that praise and worship stuff. We're just going to go there for the lesson, and then they sit in their pew the whole time staring at their watch, hoping that the line at Applebee's isn't getting too long. What I'm getting at is that people are interested in all this prophecy stuff, but the idea of building a relationship, a special relationship with the most powerful entity in existence and beyond, isn't something that's real to a lot of people. But he goes on to say, "And there shall no sign be given to it, but the sign of the prophet Jonah. For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth." Jonah tried to run. He tried to run away from Elohim. When people are distracted by all this stuff, they're not walking in a direction towards Elohim. They're looking after fantasy stuff. But Jonah realized this, and 3 days in a fish's belly, I guess he kind of figured it out and made teshuvah. And the fish spit him out on the shores of Nineveh, where he went and did what he was supposed to do. But teshuvah is the sign of Jonah. And it was made possible by Yahshua, the son of Adam, who as the vehicle of sacrifice made the way back to a relationship with Yahweh Elohim possible. Yahshua, when he's talking about the sign of Jonah, he's talking about the teshuvah that would be possible after his death, burial, and resurrection. A doctrine of the church that's really popular is that signs and wonders, you're going to see signs and wonders coming out of the church right before the rapture takes place. But at the same time, the name of Elohim is ignored. You know, it's not signs and wonders that are going to do anything. Joel laid it out. Peter laid it out in the Acts, and Paul also supported it when Joel says that those who call on the name of Yahuwah will receive redemption, deliverance, and restoration. So we are ignoring, or they are ignoring, a relationship with Yahuwah Elohim. And we can also take a look at Matthew 16:1-4 as well. The Pharisees also with the Sadducees came, and tempting desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. He answered and said to them, when it is evening, you say, it will be fair weather, for the sky is red. And in the morning, it will be foul weather today, for the sky is red and gloomy. O you hypocrites, you can discern the face of the sky, but you cannot discern the signs of the times. A wicked and adulterous generation seeks after a sign. Then again he says, there shall be no sign given unto it but the sign of the prophet Jonas. And he left them and departed. Something else that we see, everybody's so caught up in these prophecy things that the entire Torah as a whole has been neglected, in that, yeah, we can tell the weather by the signs, but we're not willing to keep the feasts and festivals of Elohim. So these verses share a common element: someone ignoring what is relevant and seeking a sign. Consider that Yahuwah surrounds us and his Ruach bursts forth in our lives. If we consider that black is the absence of light, then we can consider that there is nothing in this person for the Ruach of Yahuwah to ignite. The sign of Jonah is relevant to us in that we must keep focused on the redemption, deliverance, and the restoration that comes from Yahuwah and his word. When we are distracted by irrelevant things, we cannot focus on what truly matters, which is our walk and our relationship with Yahuwah. Today, there's numerous sources that deal with end-time prophecies. There are wars and rumors of wars, false prophets. There's an abundance of off-the-wall doctrines and theories. All of these tell us to look for signs. We had a rabbi after 9/11 wrote a book, The Harbinger, and told us about all the evil things that were going to happen. Recently we had the tetrads, the blood moons at Passover, and the dark moon, and all this stuff. And we have a popular pastor and author that wrote a best-selling book, and everybody was ooh-ah about what's going to happen. The end of the world is coming. December 21st, 2012, the Mayan calendar, the world was going to end. I mean, we are distracted. We're looking for something to tell us when the end is going to come, and not realizing that now is the time to build a relationship with Elohim, and that the Torah tells us, hey, this is how you do it. Simply build a relationship. And by the way, he has a name. He's very pleased to meet you. So the Torah tells us to seek Yahuwah to live. And John, in chapter 1, 12, and 13, tells us, but as many as received him, to them he gave the power to become the children of Yahuwah, even to them that believe on his name, which were born not of the blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of man, but of Yahuwah. What then is this verse telling us? that there are some folks that even though they are surrounded by the Ruach of Yahweh Elohim, are too engulfed. There's that word kol. This is the other side of kol that means, to be engulfed or totally, what am I trying to say, totally into something else that they shouldn't be. They're engulfed in the darkness of their distractions, that they have nothing in them for the spark of the Ruach to ignite, to bring them light. These types are unaware that Eden itself is within their grasp. Okay? So there's another type of person, the type of person that's too distracted by all the fluff that's going on. But a relationship with Elohim isn't something that's real. So we go to verse 14. It says, "And the name of the third river is Hiddekel. It is that which goes towards the east of Ashur. And the fourth river is the Euphrates." I was watching a documentary yesterday, and Hiddekel is also known as the Tigris, and it shows the Tigris River and the Euphrates River, and I said, wow, that's cool. We're missing two rivers, but anyway, I was kind of entertained by that. So the third river is Hiddekel, that goes towards the east of Asher. The name Hiddekel means rapid or quick. Asher means a step, and from its root, ashar means to succeed, to advance, to progress. The Proto-Hebrew of this word, we see there the little shin that's a tooth, and the little head of a man that represents a chieftain authority, gives us some information as well, that we see the pressure of authority. So this illustrates a different kind of distraction. Those that are too caught up in the day-to-day rat race, that they have no time to even consider Yahshua, or the Torah. There is the corporate ladder to climb. There are deadlines at work, bills to pay, what type of pizza toppings to order. The distractions, whether they're relevant or irrelevant. We get so caught up in stuff, and we all do this. I mean, we'll be honest with ourselves. We all do it. I get to running so much during the day that I don't have time to think of anything other than where the next stop is. And, it's something that talked to me. But, yeah, what toppings, what pizza toppings? Where were we? Oh, there's the pizza toppings. They move towards Hacholacheh, which means to walk, as well as a way of life. This is their walk and their way of life, is to get it, go, go, go. And they are moving their Holacheh towards Kidmat, the east. Pagan peoples of Canaan worshipped their false deities by facing east. Sun worshippers faced east in their worship. The word Kidmat, aside from meaning east, also means forward. And these people are always moving forward. Their way of life is based on their success, and they are moving in the direction of their deity. But it is a false deity, and in the end it yields only to destruction. And also something to consider, that when we lose sight like this, and I'm probably one of the most guilty people there is of losing sight like this, because there's days that it's just nonstop. We also tend to violate the first three commandments, in that we begin to depend on ourselves to take us out of bondage. We take ourselves and put ourselves in Elohim's slot, and basically we are Elohim. And thirdly, since we are ignoring Yahuwah, then we take his name totally out of the picture. So it's something that myself, I'm going to try to catch myself a little bit more, because I want to have a different type of relationship. Now the fourth river is Euphrates. The word for Euphrates means fruitfulness. And this word comes from an unused root that means to break forth or to break through. The word for forth is ha-re-bi-yi, that from the roots rai-bi-yi actually means four squared. So this would give us an idea of 16. The 16th letter of the alphabet is ayin. But let's also consider that this river is number 4 as well, which leads us to also to consider the number dalet, the 4th letter that means both a door as well as a state of spiritual poverty. And so this leads us kind of into a crossroads and a paradox. It is when we are able to come to a point where we see that we have been floating down rivers 2 and 3, and we realize that our fruitfulness and our distorted point of view has yielded fruit, but maybe the wrong kind of fruit, we then recognize that we are living in a state of spiritual poverty. And again, we see the dalet there. This takes perception, and that perception takes us back to the ayin. It's here that we also have to perceive that there is a door, again the dalet, that leads us back to a relationship with the Father, and that door is Yahshua. It was through Yahshua as the vehicle of sacrifice that restoration was made possible. So we make teshuvah. The 4th river represents to us the realization that we must make teshuvah, and that the garden is only a canoe trip up the river. The irony in all of these verses is that they all involve rivers. The word for river is nahar, but it has a root, or, that means light. If we consider this, we have to understand and be very much aware that even when the light is present and is flowing from the realm of Yahuwah Elohim, this river came out of Eden, and it spread into 4 branches. It was coming out of the realm of Elohim. If our eyes are not seeking Yahuwah, we're not going to see it. And if we consider also from Matthew, this is chapter 9, 27 through 29, says, "And when Yahshua departed from there, 2 blind men followed him, crying and saying, 'Son of David, have mercy on us.'" So this tells us that we have to realize first that we're blind before we can be restored. Then verse 28 says, "And when he had come into the house, the blind men came to him, and Yahshua said to them, 'Do you believe that I am able to do this?' They said to him, 'Yes, my master.' Then he touched their eyes, saying, 'According to your faith be it done unto you.'" So the next step is to believe that Yahuwah can redeem, deliver, and restore us, so that when we see his light and receive his restoration, without any doubt. Now, we'll see that in this story, he restored their sight, and the blind eyes were open, and the first thing that they saw was Yahshua. So we can make teshuvah. And then that restoration just presents itself to us. And we're once again, like we said in the first verse, that we are once again surrounded by the increase. We're once again in the presence of Elohim. We're once again walking with Elohim. So in this teshuvah, it is possible, as this teshuvah is possible, as a complete restoration. And it takes us back to traveling on the first river out of or back to Eden. So we can be on the next 3 rivers and make the teshuvah that'll take us back to the first river, that's back to being complete. Our walk with Yahuwah Elohim can be as much as a challenge as it is a joy. There are so many distractions to contend with, and everyone has an opinion about you or your beliefs. It's easy for the Satan to find the soft spots when we allow ourselves to wander away from Elohim's hedge of protection. So the importance of prayer and study cannot be overstated, nor can the